Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast, coming to you not live, but from the Colombo's Cafe and Tavern studio and from our Naples studio. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
What's up? Hey, Tommy, you can't keep track how many countries are in right now, but I know it's well over like 30 something, but we have a new one, the Netherlands.
Yep.
Bam.
On board.
That's
Yeah,
the
the Netherlands.
on board, baby.
You know who that is, though, don't you, Dan?
I have no idea. I'm trying to figure that out.
I'm possible. We came from Audrey Hepburn. I believe she's from. You have to fact check that. I thought she's from Auburn. Or from Auburn. She's from the Netherlands.
Are you kidding me?
Audrey Hepburn.
Well, it has to be a relative.
No, it's well, yeah.
She is
She's,
dead,
she is
correct?
past. It's her kids. She got kids.
Got to be.
I think she got a son and a daughter, and I don't know why. I
Well,
know
her
that. It's
kids are
creepy.
listening.
Huh?
Right.
I actually Googled it.
They chimed in because they wanted to see who in God's earth would be silly enough to use her bullshit ass zen of "I am
Oh,
possible."
Man, come on now. Now we just lost those listeners.
I'm getting a lot of sympathy texts and emails and shit from my I'm possible, telling me to keep my chin up and stuff. It was
Do they acknowledge?
Keep your chin up.
Keep your chin up, you old
keep
fella.
trying, JJ. You're gonna be okay.
You can do it,
There,
JJ.
Keep
I thought
trying,
I
buddy.
really came back strong with the last one. It was a good one.
No, 100% you did.
Yeah,
At-
you
at
did
our
come
age,
back
it's
strong.
not. At our age, it's not keep your chin up; it's keep your chins up. So
True that.
So Danny's
Yeah,
down in
that's
Naples, as you guys can hear. If the audio is a little off for those that aren't watching, Danny is down in our studios in Naples that we are planning to spruce up and get Danny some different mics and lights and whatnot. But
We're catering to him.
well, he goes down
Yeah.
there once a month to play pickleball.
Hey, Danny. What
Yeah.
stays here is your headphones that I actually gave you. Is a nice starting gift. They fit good.
you're not taking it back.
I don't know.
Look at that seat he's in too. He's in his
Actually,
seat too.
I'm not giving this seat up too. I like it.
Hey, what's
You just
going
need
on
to.
behind
You just need to stay down there.
Dude, Diggs, Tommy back there?
Look at that.
I leave town and we got this new. What is that's beautiful?
Ain't that nice? That is
You know who got that made? Greg Colombo. Greg Colombo called his buddy. His buddy is
Yeah.
from. Hold on a second. His buddy is Dan Minden, and Dan Minden is M&H Waterjet Solutions. And Greg thought that would be a cool sign to put behind us. And he called his buddy, and his buddy whipped that up in 2 days. Got that ready for us to
Oh
put
my
on
God.
put on site, and very good looking thing. And then then we got our little painting back there that Steve James did, and Steve is going to be later on in the show. We will have the initial producer John on the street segment. We'll be featuring Steve James, so that'll be coming up later, and
And the trooper,
the trooper
Ron Martin.
Ron Martin's in the
Yes.
episode there, and
Yeah.
so that's coming up, and then we also have later in the interview after that will be Dave Rudolph, and that was quite a murder investigation with the Sweetie Pies. Welcome to Sweetie Pies reality show, and it's a wild story. So those will be coming up later.
You know, as I sit here looking, usually I'm there next. Actually, JJ's in my seat. Okay, so don't get comfortable.
I'm very
but
comfortable.
I'm just saying, looking at this angle, the studio looks gorgeous, and we've come a long way with this grassroots podcast now into a legitimate studio thanks to Colombo's Cafe and Tavern. Unbelievable! It looks sharp, Tommy. JJ.
Yeah,
It looks
Greg's done a
sharp.
great job. That's Greg. I mean,
Dude,
Greg.
he gets here. I got here early, Danny, for the first time, like hour early. Now I know why
Yeah.
I get here just right on time. It's an hour early. He worked
Yeah.
him and John. They worked their ass off setting this stuff up.
What about me?
Yeah, you sort of.
Tommy
did.
was helping.
Tommy was there. So Tommy was there. Yeah.
Dude, no one even talked
We
to
have-
me.
You're too
Come a
busy.
long way with looks, and then we have waitresses that come down and we order food, and producer Jack orders his broccoli and carrot pizza with no crust.
Yeah,
what
that's
what did he order?
He did.
He ordered a burger with no bun and broccoli. Now the kitchen's
what
off.
fun is that?
Now the kitchen's screwed because they got extra bun up there.
Well, now Jack just. Hey, before we started, he ordered a chicken sandwich with no bun.
So there's 2 extra buns up there. They don't know what
They
to do
threw
with
off
it.
the bun burger count.
What's the side on the chicken?
Oh, he's
We got corn on the side with the chicken.
oh wow.
In all honesty, what good is it to eat? You were supposed to
We don't
enjoy
even see him
food.
right now. He's doing crunches in the corner. That's enough. That's 50, Jack. Get up.
Hey, before we hear from Mary Michelle, let's take a drink from my TCU shirt.
Well,
Oh yeah.
there you go. Drink up.
TCU. I want to know, do you have
Yeah.
TC underwear too? You got socks?
That's
I'm
kind of
guessing.
personal. That's kind of personal, JJ. We can talk about that later.
I don't want to know.
So, Danny, when you travel down there, obviously you fly. What is your preferred seating arrangement? What seat you want? You want an aisle? You want a window? What do you want?
Oh, if I can get the window, I want the window because I sleep. I can sleep anywhere at any time. I like to lean against and I fall asleep. And if I can't get the window, I like the aisle.
Right. Nobody wants the
On the
middle
way
seat,
down here,
obviously, but you got the middle seat this week, didn't you?
Oh, that sucks.
On the way down here, and the guy next to me seemed like a good enough guy, but he doesn't get the etiquette. The poor bastard that gets the middle seat, the only perk he gets both armrests. I looked that up on the Today Show. That I watched it, and they said you actually are entitled to both armrests for your elbows because you're the poor guy in the middle. He didn't see that episode,
Did you tell him who the
and he
fuck
was just
you
all
were?
strong with himself. No, I said I'm
know
Danny
who I
from
am.
private side of blue.
Come on, man.
That's what the Today Show said to do.
Throw
Yeah.
some clout out. Use the "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, I did.
Now,
Yeah.
when I used to, and I hate flying. I mean, I hate flying. But when I did get on, I would beeline for the last row window seat with the hope that nobody would want to sit in the middle seat. And that's when I get on a plane, that's the most important thing to me is that nobody sits next to me. But it's impossible nowadays, apparently.
Not
I haven't
possible.
flown in a long time.
I flew not too long ago. Where on the way back home, I had the whole row.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
Oh,
That was
that's never
unheard
happened.
of.
Now, how about the people that bring in that little bag that's a little extra, or maybe 2 of them, and they shove
try
it
to sneak it in.
and they shove it in, and they keep shoving it in. Well, and you know damn well when they take it out, it's coming out with like triple the force that it went in, and it's gonna fly somewhere and bang somebody. And then if you got the poor guy, that's why I'll never sit on the aisle either. Is that when you get next to one of those little shufflers or they're trying to get their shit in there. Is that you can guarantee anybody on the aisle, one person's going to get ass and the other one's going to get package. And then when that guy's moving around, it's coming. And then they pull that thing out. You got to be kidding me, dude. And then the people that get up early, like the people in the back, that when they get up, the plane lands and then they ding the button. And some guy in the 30th row thinks that he needs to get the fuck up and pull his package out of the overhead.
Oh,
That
yeah.
drives me nuts, dude.
Exactly.
Where are you going?
He's thought
Drives
a lot
me-
about this. I'm
Where are
laughing.
you going, dude?
I'm laughing because I looked at Jimmy Long is in the house, and he's looking at us like, "You're actually talking about this shit?"
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we're passionate about it. Let me tell you something.
Danny was mad as a mug when I called him and he got the middle seat on the way down.
See,
You know, my son graduated from TCU over the weekend. It took him
Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Wow.
Brian.
Congratulations, Brian.
on the way back. I think this is felony violations. This lady next to me pulls out peanuts, and she's eating handfuls of peanuts in that smell. No problem. I tried to get over there. Then she reached in that little bag she had underneath the seat and ripped out a tuna fish sandwich.
Oh shit! She farted on top of it.
No, I'm sure she did.
She didn't need
ask her
to.
about
It was masked by the tuna.
She didn't need to. If you grab tuna and then chew on peanuts, that's some smell right there. You don't even
Dan,
need
you should have pulled out these nuts.
Defund these.
to.
That's right. Hey, so I can tell you right now, as I sit here in Naples, the Naples studio, it's quiet. I hear nothing. I hear no cicadas, no loud trillion cicadas, 5 chainsaws in my yard. So I feel for you sorry bastards back there in St. Louis. How's it going with
No, let me tell you
cicadas?
this, Danny. You
Here we go.
You overblew
Let's
this
talk
whole.
about it, right?
Right now, there's no hardly any cicadas here in St. Louis. It's like there ain't no chainsaw in my backyard. It's like chirp.
Are you serious?
Chirp. Yeah.
Low hum.
Little hum. It's nothing. I think you overblew this whole thing. Now I was looking forward to the chainsaw. Not there yet, brother.
Greg Colombo said he was down on his farm, and he said they were pretty friggin' loud.
I'm in St. Louis.
I think cicadas are like protesters. Is when you see one of them that's not making hardly makes any noise, but when they get together, look out now. There's going to be a ruckus.
It really hasn't really hit here. We've had so much rain lately, though, too. That might have had something to do with it.
Well, you remember the
one
soil
of our
degrees.
biggest fans, Sally, she ain't down with the cicada talk. Sally Younger says,
Oh, she hates it.
She's like, no. Yeah, she don't like it.
Hey, Danny, tell the story about that service dog that you ran into at the Home Depot today.
Oh my God. Okay. So I did some homework on this. So it was Lowe's. So going through Lowe's, first of all, do you know you can go, any of you that have dogs, cats, rhinoceroses, alligators, you can go online and register them as service or comfort dogs, pay $35, and in the mail you're going to get a tag that says comfort dog, service dog, and you're also going to get like some kind of leash thing that says comfort dog, service dog. So the barometer, there is no barometer. If you can fill out a form on the internet, your dog just became, or your cat just became a comfort dog.
It's the softening of America, dude.
It is. So I'm going through Lowe's the other day, and this old codger, he's walking his dog, pushing a cart, walking his dog. The dog stops in the middle of the main aisle and rips off a 5-second long piss all over the DeWalt drills and bits, just pissing all over the DeWalt stuff.
No way. Are you serious?
And let me tell you something. The dog stopped to piss, so he couldn't walk. So he stopped, like he's walking the dog in a park. He stops and waits. Okay, Oliver. Okay, finish up. And then they keep walking.
Huh?
The dog totally relieves himself on the DeWalt drill. Now, I'm a Black & Decker guy, so I don't give a shit about the DeWalt
I
drills.
was going to
But
ask if
had
you
I
bought
been
it.
No, had I been looking for a DeWalt, you couldn't, because they're all pissed on by a comfort dog that he paid $35 for to get through the email or through the mail. So I don't know where we're going.
It's not a very well trained service dog, though. Dogs don't pee inside
No, it's
when
not.
they're trained.
So now, I mean, I have a legitimate service shark,
There you go.
my service
Lizard.
shark.
An iguana. I think
Shark,
I see it in the
dude.
tree behind you. What do you got there? There you go.
How long that
Shark, dude. Anyway, that's my story. I don't know why a service dog is allowed to go in Lowe's and piss all over the joint, and DeWalt people, whoever buys those, it should be on discount. In fact, I'll go back tomorrow and see if they're 50% off. What do you got, Tommy?
See, look, you see that hat in front of me? That's from
Yeah.
the Campbell Security Group.
It's a nice looking hat, too.
And then this little thing here, this little, my beer's in there. And,
Your coffee's in there.
Coffee, beer.
See,
So you know who that came from is Corby Campbell from Campbell Security Group, and Corby's a proud sponsor, and we're going to get him in and get him an interview. He comes from a police family, and what we're going to do is the people that sponsor us, we're going to give them a little sponsors corner and put them on our webpage. It's going to be up soon, and but we
Dean,
appreciate.
Professor-
Go ahead.
It's a good
Professor
looking-
Rick's working on that.
Yep, and then so hopefully we'll have that up soon. But we want to thank Corby for sponsoring us, and you can reach Corby at the at the CampbellSecurityGroup.com, and the number is 314-499-1121. CampbellSecurityGroup.com, 314-499-1121, and then Corby and his group. They do a lot of security, and I know they secure Danny's neighborhood, and they do the riding around there and make sure that the neighborhood's safe. They also do high-level protection for bigger companies. I know that he's got some prominent companies here in St. Louis that he helps protect their executives. So if you need anything, get a hold of them. And I think their sponsorship already worked out, didn't it, Danny?
Oh yeah, I hope so. We certainly sent him a pretty legitimate lead for a high-end security, and that's how we roll. You scratch our back, we're definitely going to scratch your back. And we're a grassroots podcast supporting law enforcement. And if you're on the side of law enforcement, which it's cool to be, you're on the right side. We're going to make sure this blue wave grows across the country and make it cool again to support law enforcement. And I just kind of went on a tangent.
Well, Corby is also a part of the family, police family. He's a city.
Sure, yeah.
City copper,
His
was a
father.
very good policeman. Now he moved on to bigger and better things.
And his dad Ralph was a
There
famous
you go.
homicide detective.
Yep.
Yep. Very good.
Unbelievable.
The next thing I'd
So,
like to bring up real quick, Danny, is the. Did I
Go
send
ahead.
you the picture of that officer in the paper that was smoking the cigar while he was on top of the suspect?
Yeah, I'm curious of how what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, I thought the first thing that came to mind was boss. That was a boss move. That was classic. And so then, of course, it drew complete negativity, and it was a picture. And from what I'm understanding, there was more than a picture involved. There was more of a video. And what had happened is this officer had gotten this unruly suspect down, and he was on top of him, and he was in complete control of him, and the guy was keep flailing away. So the officer said, "What? How can I calm you down, dude?" The guy goes, "Light me a cigarette." So he lit him a cigarette, and then the officer took his own cigar out and lit the cigar so that the suspect smoked a cigarette and the officer smoked a cigar. So I don't see all that much problem with it. What I'd see the problem with is the narrative that they tried to create with a picture rather than show the whole video. That's where I got a problem.
Well, that's always the case with those things. The optics, you can freeze frame anything, or you can take a tidbit of information from any speech and turn it however you want to turn it. But I don't think as a major I would have appreciated any of it. But
No.
but the whole story is always important.
Right.
All the facts are always important.
Right, probably not the best move. The optics that are out there aren't the best, but again, not that big of a deal when in the overall scheme of things.
I don't want to really.
Well, what happens is you give our haters an opportunity. You give law enforcement haters the opportunity to take a second in time and post that picture, and it looks horrible.
100%.
When actually,
I got
Go
just
ahead,
one
Jake.
thing to say because I'm not going to comment on it. But this morning,
Yeah, you're about to.
I'm gonna, but sort of. I got up early this morning. We had to do some things, come in early today for work, and I turned on 97.1 local channel. Mark Cox is a conservative talk show host.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I turned the car on, he brings this viral video up that's gone viral. He was 100% for the policeman. So however, everything you guys said, he said. He was 100% behind us. And what's the big deal? And he actually, I think he really admired the copper for being like a badass.
I'm telling you, that's the first thing I thought when I saw the picture. That's a pretty good move.
But yeah,
the truth of the matter is the arrested individual requested a cigarette, and the officer gave it to him.
Yep.
Hey. So it was a good thing.
They need somebody to smoke with.
What did we say
10
10 episodes ago? Your job as a police officer is to chill people out when they're out of control. So
Right.
they took control of the situation without having to use,
No
more
further force was
Yeah.
required. Yeah, exactly, Bono. Yeah.
I commend them.
Yes, I'm with them too.
Now,
Well,
if
it's what we deal with every day.
if he would have
we
lit
need
up
the
a
whole-
blunt with the guy, then that might have been different.
Hey, that's what I did.
Tommy's
If
not
I
on the
was
job.
down on the ground, that would have been my request. Hey, can you light up a blunt?
Hey, we're getting feedback because JJ's kind of on a roll. He's really changing people's lives now. People are meditating on his Zen, and he's on a hot streak. So, JJ, are you coming strong today with something
I
JJ's?
got another one for my brother. I think it's going to be a good one.
Dude, just
Dick's-
put your
Dick-
brother on the
yeah,
show.
Yeah, Dick's on fire. Life passes most people by while they're making grand plans
He needs
for
to
it.
get penicillin.
Way to cut it off, dude.
That's right. What's up, Mr. Interrupter?
He said Dick's on fire. I think he needs to get some.
Poor guy.
Danny, that might be the funniest thing you've ever said.
I feel bad for the guy, and then we go right into it.
And he's coming up with Zen even in the middle of all that.
His dick's on
He's
fire. And
creative.
he's throwing Zens out there.
Yeah. All right. So anyway,
Can I
That was
say
the
it?
best interruption of the show.
That was classic. Life passes most people by while they're making grand plans for it. That's it.
you used that last week.
No,
No.
we cut that shit out.
No, we're redo. Yeah.
Life passes most people by while they're making grand plans for it.
Oh,
get it.
yeah, I got
You
you.
got to thinking. It's
Yeah,
just
I
got to let it sink in. You know, it's not something
true,
you
though.
catch
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah.
away.
That's 100% true. Everybody
absolutely.
talks about doing what they're going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to retire. I'm going to go do this, that. And they never do it.
That
100%.
Zen is kind of like John Frank's humor. Sometimes you got to sit there and divulge it before you start laughing your ass
Marinate
off.
on it. Marinate on it. Let me tell you something. 30 years ago, when I was married 2 years, and my grandma Howard, one of our number one listeners,
You're still married.
said to me, I know, no, I know, but this is early in our marriage. Grandma Howard said, when are you and Denise going to have a baby? And I said, Mom, we're trying to plan, save up. We're trying to do it right, this and that. And she said something very similar to your Zen, JJ. She said, you'll never think you have enough money. You'll never think it's the right time. Do it, and you'll make do.
100%.
Yep.
Thanks, John. My son, thank you for keeping the Zen going.
Very zen from Mama Howard.
Yeah, Mama Howard. Yeah, and she's still doing well.
Danny, I
Yeah,
don't
so-
really. I'm glad that she's doing well. I keep in touch with her. But I just want to say that I really don't think you're that funny half the time because you're usually ripping on me. But that might have been the best line you've had so far in 25 podcasts.
I think this is like 26 or 27.
Well,
huh?
I can't keep track.
I lost track too.
It takes me a while to get loose.
That was good. That was
Hey,
actually that was a John Frank-esque. That was something John would have said. You stole this shit.
Yeah, I
I
guarantee.
was very
Let me tell you
impressed.
something. I guarantee he had it on his tip of his tongue. Guarantee.
Yeah.
That's fucking.
And
funny.
I'm not
Laughing
talking
about it
about
now. I just thought about it again
Yeah.
and started laughing. I will say one of the things that was that we're going to get out there is some of the cuts from last week when we did that little skit with producer John and Danny, and we were reviewing the tapes, and we left all the recordings rolling. And JJ and I, we probably laughed harder at the outtakes there that we'll put together for some sound bites in future shows.
The blimps, the bloopers.
I don't know that they were bloopers; they were just funny.
The blimps.
They were just funny, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. And every once in a while, we come up with a little idea after the show when we're sitting around doing our thing, and so that was fun.
For those that listened and don't watch, I'd like to know what they thought about the dreams.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta go ahead and go to YouTube.
I thought it was good though. Even I listened to it. I thought I kind of.
I didn't like my outfit, but
It was like producer John said, "It's my dream. I can have him dress any way I want."
Hey, Dan, I don't want to criticize you, but somebody asked. You used to be strong and like bench 300 pounds. But apparently, you haven't hit a gym in a while.
well, actually, it's weird. I think there was that. I think producer Jack photoshopped that because I have been working out, but I looked scrawny and fat. I don't know, man. I think there was some Photoshop action going in there. I mean, I got some pipes,
I
man.
don't think so.
Come
I hear
on.
you.
Whatever.
I was very disappointed in that look, but it was producer John's dream. What could I do?
Right.
Speaking of
Exactly.
producer
That's
John,
how he sees you.
is he? Yeah, that's how he sees me in his dream. So, does producer John, is he sitting on a newsroom.com today?
I am, but I had I had one picked out, but it was entirely too long because we've covered a lot of other subjects. So I have a shorter one that I still think is funny. It's from 1924. The headline is "Judge Drops Plan to See Evidence in Striptease Case." So police judge George Grellner today ordered a performance for himself and other judges and prosecutors of the municipal courts building of an allegedly indecent striptease set given by Miss Elizabeth Dallas Hunsaker, dancer at the Club Boulevard, 3021 North Grand Boulevard. But the judge canceled his order when he learned that his colleagues did not share their curiosity. So the judge set this thing up, and apparently these other judges were, showing up for this meeting, and they found out that they were going to watch a striptease, and then they all like turned around and walked out. And so Judge Grellner was going to do it by himself, and at the last minute he decided to call the whole thing off. So Judge Grellner, he probably should recuse himself from many of those kind of
Cases.
lewd and indecent cases, but that was going on 100 years ago.
Yeah, that was 10 years after the stamps in 1914. The
Yeah,
stamps on the
now the stamp,
face.
the getting plastered was a good
Getting
one.
plastered. Now, 3021 North Grand, is it? That's not, okay. The old Playboy Club was at
It was on Lindell.
Grand and Lindell. Yeah, Grand and Lindell. So
Yeah.
I wish we had some listeners that could tell us a little bit about what went on inside that place, the old Playboy
Denny
Club.
Clyer probably could.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, that's a good point, Denny Clyer. Tommy, what do we have with this producer John on the streets going on?
Yeah, so we're going to do a couple of little things different, and we'd like to hear your guys' feedback. We're going to introduce Producer John's segment, and Producer John will do that here in a little bit. And then we're going to come back afterwards. We're going to comment on it, and then later in the show, we're going to go to Dave Rudolph's. We're going to set up Dave Rudolph's interview, and then we're going to come back and comment on it. And then on Monday, those will be released individually in their own segments. So we're going to try to start doing that. We're testing and we're experimenting with it now, where we're putting them in the show also. But down the road, we're hoping that maybe we will do several interviews and then introduce the clips of them during our little podcast here, and then play them in their entirety on Mondays as we make some schedule changes here. But we just want to get the feedback from you guys. Our idea here is that you won't have to sit down and listen to 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes. You can we'll kind of shorten up the original show that'll once again start coming out on Fridays once we get into June. But that show will be our flagship, if you want to call it, or the main show. We'll introduce what's coming up on Mondays, and those interviews will come out with us introducing them and wrapping them up. So just a little something different. And again, hit us up at the brighter side of blue .com at Gmail.
So we're throwing shorter segments out, a variety, a menu of segments that people can choose to listen to.
Correct. And then we'll set those up in the main show. And then again, we want some feedback on this one, because this one's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little both. It's going to be the segments for the whole podcast. And then, so sometimes you might see or know somebody that might want just the Producer John segment, or somebody that just might want to listen to the Sweetie Pie segment. And that allows you to just send them a shorter clip. And as always, and I've been told that we've been lacking on this, anytime you see any of our shorts that you like, can you please hit like, subscribe to our channels, subscribe, like, and send and share. If you guys can do that, that really helps us out. It really helps gain viewers. And commenting on stuff, whether it's good or bad, especially the good stuff, can attract haters. So that's always good for us. So Producer John, it is the first Producer John on the street. And what do we got?
We kind of alluded to this last week. Major Ron Martin, who's going to be a guest on the next show. We work together on the St. Louis Police Department. A lot of us work with Ron. He brought to our attention a really special case where a robbery victim who was shot and paralyzed, and his buddy was killed in the same robbery. Once he recovered from the incident, he went back to his roots as an artist and used that as a positive use of his energy. And Ron was the one that went to him and said, hey, it would really be helpful for a lot of other victims, especially if there's a homicide victim, their family, if you could paint a portrait of that person and present it to the family to give them some comfort, and it's also good. Stephen James is the young man's name, and so it's a mutually beneficial type of a situation. So, Steve went along with it, started doing it. Ron brought him these cases and brought the pictures for the family, and Steve would paint them, and then they would present. Later they would present the portrait to the family. So Steve invited us into his home. We taped the interview. He was very forthcoming. He was, it's really kind of chilling just to hear the description of what it's like to be robbed at gunpoint at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the aftermath, and then what a great job that Ron and his officers and the Major Case Squad did to catch the two guys who were responsible for it.
It's a cool story. I hope you guys enjoy. So enjoy, and we'll be back to talk about it afterwards. Thank you.
Christmas Eve 2021, and caught the Metrolink train to the St. Charles Rock Road station. Me and my friend, we got off the train at that location, and it was the last bus going down Martin Luther King that had came and gone. So we had an option to either walk or stay there until the buses and trains start running around 4:15, 4:30 the next morning. And I didn't want to stay there and sleep on the train station perimeter, so I said I'd rather start walking. So he said, come on, let's go. So while we walking, we get to a building right there in Wellston at a street called Ogden and Martin Luther King. And my friend Derek, he noticed two guys just immediately come around the corner. And when I got them in my vision, I said, they got on masks or something, hoodies or something. And he said, and they got guns. So before we knew it, they said, freeze. You know, y'all know what time it is. Get up against the wall. So I put my hands up. He put his hands up. And we was like, what's going on, man? And they was like, man, it's a robbery. Give me what y'all got. What you got in your pocket? Give me everything you got. So I was like, man, I don't got much of nothing, man. You know, I just went to the store, bought this. You know, might have a couple dollars in my pocket. You can have it, take it. So he said, get it out your pocket. He said, if you reach in your pocket and pull out a gun, I'm gonna kill you right now. I said, man, I ain't got no gun on me. I said, you go in my pocket because I don't want you to think that it's a gun I'm pulling out. So he hit my pocket and he pulled out my car keys. And he said, you won't be needing these no more because y'all gonna die tonight. I said, man, I don't got nothing, man. So he took my keys and looked at my keys, and then he tossed them in the air. Then the other guy that was with him, he pushed my buddy Derek up against the wall. And he was like, what you got? Where the money at? Where the money at? And Derek kept saying, man, I don't got nothing but a few dollars. So he got to go into his pockets, and the other guy had his gun pointed at me, holding me at bay, while they got Derek up against the wall. And then he started hollering at him, take the wedding band off. And Derek started saying, man, I've been married 13 years or something like that. He said, my fingers got big and this ring just won't slide off, man. He said, don't take my ring. He said, man, you got one more chance, take that ring off, man. So at that time, the guy that was holding a gun at me at gunpoint, he said, what else you got, man? So he started hitting my sides and feeling my sides and stuff. I said, I don't got nothing else, man. So he asked me what was in the bag. I had like a book bag. I said, man, this is just some papers and little material things like that. So he said, reach in it. I said, man, you don't think I'll pull a gun out, man, again? I said, I'll dump it out or you can go in. So I dropped the bag. I think he tossed the bag or something. And at that point I heard, pow. And that's when I seen my friend Derek slide down the wall after being shot. At that instant, I said, I don't want him to shoot me in the face, you know, point blank range. So I spent, and he shot me in the back, and I immediately fell down. And when I fell down, they took off and they jumped into a car. Well, at the time he was talking to me, holding me at gunpoint, I'm steady looking at this vehicle that's parked at the light, with the lights off though, at the intersection. So I assume it had to be the vehicle they got out of because it's just sitting there. And when they ran and they got in the car, my cell phone that I had in my inside pocket, when he patted me down, he didn't feel the phone, else he would have took it, I believe. So I was laying with my face facing the opposite direction. And at the time I was wondering if he took my wallet too. So when I reached behind me, I couldn't feel my behind, you know, my backside. So I'm like, what happened? So I'm patting, I'm patting kind of hard. And I said, oh man, I said, I'm paralyzed. At that time, I heard the siren and the ambulance coming over the hill. And they got me on the gurney and put me in the ambulance, and you know, went from there to the hospital. And that's when Major Martin and his team came in, and they asked me questions, and I told them what all I could remember after I came out of intensive care. You know, I was in intensive care, and I came out.
His incident, we activated the major case squad, and I was a supervisor on that call out, and we were fortunate enough to talk to Steve, who provided some information that we didn't have. When all the detectives got there, we had nothing. Just his 911 call that said it was a brown car and a description of one of the suspects. So we didn't have a lot to work with. But Steve was in ICU, and he was intubated, and he couldn't talk. Again, this is Christmas Eve morning, 2021. So finding 20 detectives to come out just before Christmas Day took a lot. Took a lot for those guys and gals to do. And Christmas Day, we finally able to contact Steve. They had taken the tube out of him, and that's when Steve told us that it was a robbery, and that his friend Derek Brookfield, his phone was taken. So we got Derek's phone number, and we tracked it. Come to find out, Derek's phone was at the scene of the homicide. About 45 minutes later, Derek's phone traveled to another homicide location in the city. These young men had done another homicide in the city, we believe. And then it ended up in Little Rock, Arkansas. But within that 72-hour time frame from Christmas Eve 2021 till a couple days after Christmas, we were able to locate the suspect in Little Rock, Arkansas that robbed and shot Steve. We didn't get the second suspect identified. That's the one that shot and killed Derek and robbed him. But we coordinated efforts with the Little Rock Police Department, the North Little Rock Police Department, U.S. Marshals, all that kind of stuff. And something that is common with major case callouts, major case will be out for 5-7 days or whatever, and then once they get things wrapped up for you, they kick it back to the organization that requested the call out, and then it's our responsibility to follow up on things. So this was our turn, the North County Police Cooperative's turn to show what we had. It took us 10 months, but in October of 2022, we identified the second man, and he was in a jail in Little Rock, Arkansas on unrelated charges, and we went down there, and actually a special guest on your show a few weeks ago, Detective Shane Mourning from the Maryland Heights Police Department, assisted me, and we went to Little Rock, Arkansas, and we took the person into custody, or so to speak, identified him, and because he was in custody down there on other stuff, but and we were able to figure it out. That's when I called Steve from Little Rock, and I told him, hey man, we got the second guy, and we got a little emotional. He was very appreciative, and then that's kind of it. About a month later, he called me up and he says, hey Major Martin, I got something for you, and I said, man, what is it? And he says, all right, just come on over, man. I want to give you something. So I didn't know if he was set. I didn't know what you were doing, man. But I did. I showed up. And when I walk in Steve's apartment, I see a very big portrait of me. And it is a portrait of when I did a press conference regarding Officer Mike Langsdorff being shot and killed in the line of duty back in 2019. And I'll give you guys a picture. The picture that he used, I'll give it to you, and then I'll take a picture of the picture he made. Maybe you can show that on the show as well.
Absolutely.
But when I was floored. I was floored. And you know what's really funny? When I walked in, the color of my face, he's like, you know, I didn't know if I should call you, but I didn't know if you were Mexican or Italian. And I said, man, I'm German, man. Come on. No, I don't even know what I am. I'm a mutt. But he was so worried about it, you know. Yeah. And what really surprised me, while he had the skill and the ability, and he loves painting and he loves doing the portraits, he is at such a disadvantage now because he's paralyzed. He's paralyzed from the waist down. And this makes it so much more difficult for Steve to get this stuff done. You know, it's not like he can stand up and move and do all these things. So all these portraits and paintings that he does, it's from his heart, man. And it just speaks volume. And he's taken a tragedy, just a violent tragedy, and turned it into a positive.
Once I got healthy enough, I went back to painting, and from Webster Groves High School, I took a liking in art, and I started painting portraits. So I started painting, and I told my significant other, I said, you know what? I was looking at one of the stories where Officer Langford that he mentioned had got killed down there in Wells in the same area. So I seen him on television, and I said, that's the same homicide detective, Major Martin, that's in my case. I said, I'm gonna show him how much I appreciate him, going after this guy and making this arrest. So I took that picture off of that interview he was doing, and I painted it. And he didn't know I was doing it, and I surprised him with it. And he came.
You guys stayed in contact during all that time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we stayed in contact ever since then. And when he seen my artwork, he was like, you know what, man? He said, I think that you can really, help others, overcome their loss, their tragedy, by, setting an example, being a role model, and just helping others. So I took heed to that. And, a lot of times, when it's sad, but when people pass away off of tragedies and stuff, Major Mark get in touch with me that where there is victims that he have some relationship with the families and stuff. He asked me, would you like to do this one? And I would say, yeah, let's do it. Just something that I feel that I can give to someone that's in pain, and try to help them through it, to try to give them much closure.
Yeah.
I'm Major Ron Martin. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police for the North County Police Cooperative.
I'm Stephen James.
He's the artist.
And my name is Keisha L. Hayes.
And you are?
I am the mother of Mylena Colvin.
Yeah, and we're here today with Miss Hayes and Steve. Unfortunately, on October 9th, 2018, Miss Hayes' daughter was murdered. And we did an investigation, and we just went over that investigation with Miss Hayes and the family, and an arrest was made in the case, but unfortunately they didn't get enough closure because the suspect we arrested was ultimately killed in a different homicide. So Miss Hayes doesn't have all that closure that's there. But we did explain the case to her, and she understands where we're at with the investigation, and we believe that we certainly solved the case, and that the person responsible for it was booked for it. But something that I asked Miss Hayes if she'd mind if we could get a favorite picture of Mylena, and then I could reach out to Steve, and Steve could work his magic, and here we are. Steve, you want to take the honors?
Miss Hayes, I just want to send my condolences to you over your daughter. I know it was a tragic loss. Anytime we lose a loved one, Major Martin, he showed me the picture, and he told me how terrific mother you is, and how sad you have been over this duration of time, losing your daughter. Tear that out. Yeah.
You okay?
My baby.
I think you did an amazing job. Do we need to get that in there?
I got it.
Okay. You okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's all right.
It's a mixture of joy and
Pain at the same
sadness.
time, like Frankie Beverly say.
Yeah.
It's joy and pain.
That's it, my baby. She will be 26 in October.
Wow.
So it's almost like celebrating life, and 7 days later, mourning. It's beautiful.
Thank you. You're welcome. Happy Mother's Day.
Oh man, Mother's Day is Sunday.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, Keisha. You got her. You're going to see her every day. She's still with us. Her spirit's here.
Yeah. And that's
She's
one
never
of
left you.
the one of the reasons. And I named this painting right here Larger Than Life because it's the being her actual face. I've made it larger.
Her eyes are her eyes.
Larger than
He
life.
got the eyes.
And she
Are you
can hang
okay?
up and be with you
Yeah.
every day.
He said that right, because she's very outspoken, and she believed in love and loyalty, you know, and she was just full of life. It's very comforting for me, you know, and it was what I wanted, you know, because I always wanted to have a painting or something to symbolize her authenticity.
There she is.
And he caught every aspect of it. I mean, from the eyes down to even down to the lips.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you are happy. He's a good.
Holy cow, Tommy, JJ.
What is, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Producer John, huh? How about producer John?
Seriously.
I am nominating him immediately for an Emmy.
That's unbelievable.
A street Emmy.
That's going to go viral. It's unbelievable. I got tears in my
Good.
eye, JJ.
Somebody was cutting an onion up in this thing.
Yeah.
You got all misty-eyed, didn't you, JJ? I saw you.
Tom's trying to put a case on him.
That was the producer John. That was awesome, and
Unbelievable.
Ron Martin. What a great job that he did with following up, and of course Steve. What a story.
Yeah, and we got lucky. You know, Steve had just finished that. You know, that new portrait of Mylena, and her mother, Miss Hayes, was willing to have us to her home to do the unveiling. So which took a lot, I think, for her too. To have strangers in her house and to see,
her reaction was,
it was
something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Mother's Day was like 5 days away.
Yeah.
I think you guys did it on a Wednesday.
Yeah. It was
And Mother's Day was that Sunday. Just a great story, and it's like that's the epitome of the brighter side of blue. That whole story is like the epitome. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was a neat one to do.
That's
done.
That's a story that doesn't get told unless producer John does it. Seriously, that just lays dormant unless producer John brings that to reality. And that is exactly what law enforcement is all about on a daily basis, over and over, doing great heroic things, helping the community, and we just don't get any credit for it.
That is the biggest problem with police work. These departments, none of them promote good police work, and they shouldn't. They should tell the good stories that we're telling. And It's kind of a shame that these departments only defend themselves when stupid things happen instead of promoting the good things that we do.
Yeah, we said that on show one, is that the marketing and the police department marketing is just horrible. And they just sit back and they wait for bad stuff to happen. And then they have to react to it rather than saying, hey, we've promoted. And unfortunately, they don't have the time to put on a podcast and talk about an hour about all the great stuff they do. And that's why we're here. We want all the great stories like that. And we're going to bring more stories like that to you, because some of them have already come our way that we're kind of working on. And producer John, I mean, hey, he set the bar pretty high there, brother.
Yeah, and let's at the end of the video, if you saw that there was, if anybody's interested in having portraits done by Steve, right now until he gets his own website up and we get ours up, people can email us and we'll get whatever information to Steve and make sure it.
Yes.
So we're trying to help Steve out. He's in a second floor apartment. It's really hard for him to get around, and I think it'd be a good thing to help him out.
And I know Ron Martin, who, like you said, who we're going to have on next week, will probably have more information on how we can get, and he's going to help too. Ron really is interested in helping Steve,
no question,
get a better place to live and all that. And maybe we'll do some more of these, producer John on the streets with Steve, and deliver some photos or some meaningful portraits to people that I think that's just neat stories.
Yeah.
So the next one we're going to get into, Danny, and again, I just want one more time, producer John, that was awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tip of the hat. So the next one, we'll end with, and we'll be back after this, but Dave Rudolph came in, and Dave is a homicide detective, as you'll hear. And Dave came in to talk about the Sweetie Pies murder, which involved a young kid named Andre Montgomery, and the Welcome to Sweetie Pies reality show. And it was insurance involved, and there was Tim Norman, who was Robbie Montgomery's son, and Andre was and you'll hear all that, but it was a wild case. It involved it was like a jigsaw puzzle. Rappers, strippers, rap videos, bank accounts, jailhouse tapes,
Reality show.
Insurance policies.
Insurance policies. It was just crazy. And Dave joined us, and he talked about it. It's out there all over the internet, some of the facts. But Dave told us what it was like from their point of view. And he came together with a group of investigators that he mentions. And they just do a great job of putting this puzzle together and getting these people convicted that needed to be convicted. And so I think you're going to like this story, and we'll be back to wrap it up when the story's over.
Peace.
All right, we're back, and we're going to welcome, like as promised, Detective Dave Rudolph, 19-year veteran of the SLMPD, currently assigned to the Homicide Division, right?
Yes, sir.
Been down there for a while?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Okay. All right. Tommy, we got a good guest on today.
Oh, yeah, like Danny said, Dave Rudolph. Dave was a lead investigator in an investigation in the murder of Andre Montgomery. And this is a very interesting case, and some of you may have heard about it. It's been in the news. This investigation was a wild murder for hire. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. And it involved reality show stars, gangsters, rappers, strippers, burner phones, jailhouse tapes, life insurance policies. I mean, this thing
Sounds like a movie.
I'm telling you. And it involves the Sweetie Pies, and we'll get into that. And Dave has an interesting story of how the investigation went. You know, it's been out there. It's been on the news. It's been on cable, and but nobody's ever heard it from Dave's point of view.
You were the investigator, or one of the investigators?
One of the investigators. I was assigned to it as a follow-up several years after the murder.
So as promised by the Brighter Side of Blue, we get inside scoop.
Right, and then it's a neat story. It was a team of investigators, like he said.
Yeah.
So before we get started, and like I said, Dave, this is the murder of Andre Montgomery. Give us a little background on Andre, just so everybody knows who we're talking about as we go through this investigation.
Yeah, so Andre was born in San Diego, California. His father was killed in Los Angeles during a gang violence right around the time he was born. Andre's grandmother is Robbie Montgomery. She was a backup singer for Ike and Tina Turner, and she started a restaurant called Sweetie Pies in St. Louis. It was a soul food restaurant. Her son, James Timothy Norman, I'll probably refer to him as Tim.
Yep.
He did some prison time, and while he was in prison, he had come up with this plan for a reality show. And when he came out, the Oprah Network picked it up and did several seasons. So Andre was living in Texas back in 08 or 09, right before the show started. And he moved here to St. Louis to live with his grandmother, Robbie. He was featured on the show several seasons, paid by the show, not a lot of money. But that's kind of the background of Andre. He went to McClure North High School and graduated. That was featured on the show. There was a whole episode about it. But, kids being kids, eventually Andre put some stuff on social media. It wasn't anything bad. I think it was told to me that the producers of the show didn't like the kind of hair he was wearing. And he was, I think, smoking a little bit of marijuana.
Oh,
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
Come on now. No, but so Andre let's go into, but before Andre gets murdered, there is a burglary at Miss Robbie's house. And take us through that a little bit, because that has a lot to do with the other stuff that goes on in this case.
Correct. It's kind of important to back up a little bit. So because of the marijuana use, he was removed from the show.
Really?
He was. And he eventually moved back to Texas. And right around 2014,
Now, how old was he? Approximate.
late teens, it was after he
I
graduated
thought-
high school.
I'm trying to remember the character because I remember kind of watching it.
Yeah. So he moved back to Texas, and right around October of 2014, Tim Norman, his uncle, reached out to his mother and said, "Hey, I want to bring him back to St. Louis, get him a job, get him into school, mentor him." So they arranged for him to come back to St. Louis, and kind of right around that time, also in October of 2014, nobody knew this until after his death, Tim Norman had obtained a life insurance policy on him.
On Andre?
On Andre to a tune of about $450,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of the way it broke down was it was a $200,000 if he died, $200,000 if he died by accident, and homicide, believe it or not, is considered an accident. And $50,000 term rider. So if he died within 10 years of the policy,
An
that's
extra
another-
50.
An extra 50. And we didn't know it about at the time. We later found out that he not only obtained that policy. You look like you're about to fall out of your chair.
No, I
Tommy.
said- I
No,
said
because
that-
JJ
I
said
said-
that's a clue.
Oh, that's
This
a
whole
clue.
thing's a clue.
That's a clue.
That's a clue. JJ's catching on.
I think I could go to homicide now.
No.
Yeah.
Stay where you're at.
But we later found out that he really tried to obtain about 5 life insurance policies over the course of a few years.
Right.
So Andre was brought back, and Tim initially got him into Nellie's music school, put him up in a place to live. But it wasn't long after that he was kind of put out in the cold, kind of left to fend for himself. So he was struggling, to say the least. Well, Tim was moving pretty hard at that time. He had a lot of things going. He was opening up Sweetie Pies out in L.A. A lot going on.
Rap business.
Rap business.
Yep.
And kind of in that June 2015 time period, Robbie Montgomery had gone out of town. And when she returned home, her house had been burglarized. And when I say burglarized, it was torn to hell. Couches ripped open. She reported about $225,000 worth of cash and property stolen. We were told by some people it was closer to $1 million.
And this is Sweetie Pie, basically.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Mrs.
This is
Robbie.
Sweetie Pie.
Robbie.
Mrs. Robbie.
That's
yeah.
what she goes by, I believe. wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right.
Just clearing it up.
No, you're doing good, JJ.
Thanks.
No.
Hang in there.
Go ahead.
So, also important to kind of note, back in June of 2015, right around that time of that burglary, Tim Norman had filmed a rap video with Migos.
Pimpin' how he lose his major earner. Don't burn her. And yeah, you looking fine, but girl, I'm trying to check your credit. Bitch, don't ask me about my cash, and I don't never fuck with debit.
And he had flown several people out to be in this rap video. It included high-level dope men and several people from the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood, which is where the original Sweetie Pies was.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, kind of jumping forward in the investigation, I remember when I saw the names that he brought out there. I had worked in the 9th District Detective Bureau, and I knew the names. And I remember looking at one of the other investigators and saying, "Hey, if our killer's in one of these names."
Right. In the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how you got them tied together. Now he's telling you the story how all these rappers or this video went on, but it's really interesting how he got the information. And when Andre gets killed on 3/14 of 16, correct?
Correct.
And Dave wasn't even in homicide at the time. He was a 9th District detective. So tell everybody how you got involved in the case, and then what information you got right off the bat from the previous investigator.
Yeah. So what got me involuntarily transferred to homicide was there was a 7-year-old child who was murdered up in Old North St. Louis. His name's Xavier Uzanga. And I was sitting back in the bureau one day, and I was right next to Johnny Anderson, who I have a huge amount of respect for. He's an amazing detective.
Yep.
And Colonel Kreisman, then Captain Kreisman, came back to the bureau, and she grabbed me and John, and she said, hey, this guy may or may not have murdered this child, but they have his name, and they know that he stole $50,000 from his armored car. He was an armored car driver. She said, you need to head down to homicide, and you guys are going to be assigned to investigate the theft. So we headed down there, met with Matt Frichtel and Brandon Wims, and worked pretty closely with them. Very good coppers, good investigators. And we were able to develop a federal case on the shooter, Malik Ross. Charges never got issued on the murder case, but he ultimately pled guilty to the theft of the money, and he got 10 years in the feds. But about a week later, Captain Kreisman came up to my desk again, but this time she said, hey, I need to see you in my office. I headed back to her office, and it wasn't just me getting transferred to homicide.
Yeah.
There was a group of us. But she said, hey, Jerry Lashock just called, said, you're going down to homicide in 5 minutes. The transfer is getting ready to come out, or the detachment, rather.
Right.
Head
And
on
I
down.
said,
Can I say something about him?
Yep.
Just, he is a dogged detective.
Oh,
he
yeah.
puts a lot of hours in. His reputation was good, and they know when he gets a dog, he's like a dog with a bone. He don't
Right.
let go, and he keeps going and going. And he puts in, I don't even know how many hours he puts in.
Right.
But my neighbor Jeff, was a homicide detective, always had the most respect for him. Said, man, the guy, if you need something, you go to Dave.
Right.
And it's like when you want something done, you go to a busy person. That's Dave.
That's,
So that's why you went to
that
homicide.
kind of
Yeah,
talent.
that's why you went to homicide.
Lashock's kind of guy right there, right?
And I don't need to, really
No,
suck up
that's
to you
good.
or anything, but
that's
I don't have to.
well, that's nice to say. I've been blessed to be around really, really good policemen for my entire career, and you pick up a little bit from each person
Oh, yeah.
that you
Yeah,
meet.
we always talk about that.
Yep.
But it was kind of a funny conversation because I said, no, I don't think I'm going. She's like, no, I think you're going. So you need to.
Apparently, you thought I asked you a question.
Yeah.
I go, I don't really know. I've never worked for Jerry Lashock. I've probably spoken 3 words to him.
Yeah.
Get him on the phone. I'm not going. She goes, you don't know Jerry Lashock. You're going. So I
That would have
packed.
been a funny call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Jerry's not coming. Oh, yeah, he is.
Okay, so we're past the burglary now.
Yeah.
Which they knew they were looking
Yep.
for something.
And now what lands on your desk is you get walked over first day you're down there, you get a case. What case is it?
Yeah, Scott Ecker walked up to my desk with a report and said, hey, this kid was murdered on March 14th, 2016 up on Natural Bridge. He's got a really, really nice mother. She is going to call constantly, and you need to take this case. It was Roger Murphy's case to begin with, and I just happened to take over his desk. I don't think it was anything special about me. I just
Right.
sat at his desk, and he gave us a really good start. We had a good start, and a group of investigators came together, and we were lucky enough to finish it.
So when you get down to Roger's desk, you get the case, does mom call right away?
Well, Scott Ecker said, hey, you need to call her. I think she was already calling homicide. I didn't know about this.
Right. That's why they gave it to you.
This is sweetie
Let's
pie,
let
right?
Rudolph deal with it.
New guy.
This is Andre's mom.
Okay, Andre's mom.
Yeah, her name's Miss Griggs. So, of course, I didn't do what Eck told me to do. I kind of waited on it because I wanted to review the report
Know
before
what you were talking about?
Right.
I wanted to know what I was talking about. But I remember being off one night, probably a week after I got the case, and I got a call from Amy Funk, who was on 6 to 2s at the time. She said, do you know this Miss Griggs? I said, well, I've never met her before. And she goes, well, look, she's calling from Lubbock, Texas, and she somehow got a hold of our 911 dispatch center. I don't know how she did it, but will you please give her a call?
Yeah.
So I think me and Miss Griggs' first call was like at 8 or 9 o'clock at night on a weekend.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's part of the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Welcome to the homicide business.
Yeah.
So, and then again, you have Roger gives you the information And within that investigation, talk about the scene and the cell phone you caught, or the cell phone you got, and the information you got from that cell phone.
Yeah, by all accounts, it was a pretty chaotic scene. Not because it was complicated, but a lot of things happened. Andre Montgomery had gone there with his friend. Well, I guess I should back up. Andre had left town right around the time of this burglary at his grandmother's house. And that kind of raised suspicion with Miss Robbie.
Yeah.
This robbery.
Yeah, not Miss Robbery.
She was a victim of it, though. Kind of burglary.
So-
Go ahead.
That kind of raised suspicion. And in reality, Andre had just gotten sick of not being able to make a living, and he moved down to Florida with an acquaintance. But it was suspicious to them. So Miss Robbie wanted him to come back to St. Louis to participate in a polygraph examination with St. Louis County Police. And by the communications I later reviewed, Andre was deathly afraid that Tim was going to hurt him if he came back to St. Louis. I mean, it was kind of those eerie things.
So they were putting it out there that he was probably the best suspect. On the streets, he was the suspect.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Now, I'll make it clear, we extensively looked into everybody involved in this investigation. An 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid steals that amount of money. They're not going to be living in Florida the lifestyle he was living. So it was abundantly clear he had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
But early to mid-March 2014, early to mid-March 2016, Andre comes back and he participates in a polygraph examination.
Relative to the burglary?
Yes.
Okay.
So, reading through the county police report, one of the last lines is he's no longer considered a suspect in this burglary. And they did a pretty extensive investigation. He had nothing to do with it. But he was hanging out with some friends while he was in town. They had gone to a strip club over in East St. Louis, right around his arrival in St. Louis.
You guys have been there.
Bottoms up, maybe.
Bottoms up.
Yes.
Can't say I have, but go ahead.
So that'll become important later on.
Right.
But so on the day he was murdered, him and his friends went to a recording studio at 3964 Natural Bridge. It's a vacant house now. But if you can imagine old city, 2-family flat, the first floor was occupied, the second floor was unoccupied, but it was owned by the same family. And that family had rented the basement to another family member who had like a makeshift recording studio. It looked like a lot like this.
Right.
So it was awesome. It was totally awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So Andre and his friends went over there, and the friends had said, hey, he was talking about meeting this gal all day. And he picked up the phone a couple times in the basement, and we knew he was talking to a female. Well, at some point, he goes outside to meet this female, and short time later, we hear gunshots, and we hear Andre run across the floor screaming. He hits the floor. Now, here's what makes the scene confusing, just a little bit upon arrival. One of his friends has a gun in the basement, completely legal gun owner, nice kid, full-time job, no problems whatsoever. Well, he hears Andre's in trouble, so he arms himself and goes running up the stairs. I say kid, he's in his 20s. The kid that was living there was watching Batman in his room. He kind of owned the house. His elderly grandma's in the side room, and his toddler's in there. And he goes, I'm watching Batman, and I hear these gunshots, and I thought it was on
the TV. Yeah.
on the TV, but then they start getting closer. So he said, I got my toddler here, and I got my grandma here. So I grab my gun, and I kind of cover out the door, and I can see this stairs going up to the second floor, or rather up to the first floor from the basement. And he goes, I see a gun. And this is how he testified in court. He goes, I see a gun coming up the stairs. And I don't really see the guy, but I see the gun. And I know that guns don't float. So I said, drop the gun, and then I fired. Well, he shot one of Andre's friends that was coming to
Help
help
Andre.
Help Andre.
help Andre.
So yeah, that's a tough one. You meant
That's a tough scene.
Tough scene to show up to.
Yep.
But yeah, go ahead.
So, like I said, Andre ran into the house and he passed away on the floor of the living room. And, looking at the crime scene photos, because I wasn't on the scene, it wasn't a robbery. He had his jewelry on. His phone was laying along the path. So we were pretty interested in that phone when we got the case, and went and picked it up out of property custody, had it re-examined, and started looking at that phone examination. And Roger knew already who Andre was talking to and who he was planning to meet, but we started from scratch and checked every box.
Right, and just kind of skim over of who's involved now and how they're involved, such as what did you find out from that phone as far as the burner information?
Yeah, so looking at the person he was obviously going out to meet.
Because she called, there's a phone call right before he goes out, and he goes out.
Yeah, phone call and text message communication. Now, it was a little tough because at the time of his murder, he was actually on the phone with another friend. He had met this female already, and he was calling another friend, and the phone went dead. So we looked into that number and found out that it was one of his buddies that was just trying to find the recording studio. We backed up, and we could tell from the communication that he was meeting this person and that this phone had been activated that day. I want to say there was a message in there like, Andre said to her, hey, I texted your other phone. And she said, yeah, that phone's getting cut off today. Delete that number. So looking back in the communications, we were able to tell that it was Tera Ellis holding that phone that started communication with him that day.
And the name is Tera Ellis?
Tera Ellis. Okay. It was saved in Andre's phone as Alexis DeGreat, which was her stage name. She was a stripper out of Memphis that was driving to St. Louis to dance at Bottoms Up on the weekends.
Okay. And so then you tied those numbers together. And what other number there was one other number you tied in there that led you to Tim Norman, correct?
Yeah. We had to serve some legal process on that burner phone. And we found out that, let me back up. We looked at the communications on that phone once we got a search warrant for it. And we looked at the travels of it. And we could tell that the phone was activated. It first got service the day of the murder around the Chase Park Plaza, also near a Walgreens where the phone ended up being purchased. We could tell that it traveled straight to Memphis, Tennessee in record time after the murder.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I mean, made it down to Memphis, and she had to have been driving 110 miles an hour.
And then you also had that third phone that you got to Tim Norman, and it told you some interesting information too.
Yeah, her phone really only talked to another burner phone and Andre, and then this mystery phone who we thought was probably the shooter. So we looked at that other burner phone she was talking to, not the shooters, but the other phone. She had called it right after the murder. And when we looked at the location, we could see that it was activated on the day of the murder, right by the Chase Park Plaza.
Same place.
Same place. It really only talked to Terica's burner phone. It was in St. Louis the day of the murder, and it was at Lambert International Airport at the time of the murder. And then it flew out to California through Minneapolis connection. He must have turned the phone on when he got to Minneapolis because we got the Minneapolis connection. And we actually looked at FlightAware and compared that route to known flights that day. We're able to get the manifest and see that Tim Norman was on the.
All right. So now we're cooking. We're starting to cook a little bit. We got information but then you're still working on this as a state level. How do the federal prosecutors get involved in a local murder case?
Well, it was over a horseback ride at our family farm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah. Say what?
Say what?
It was over a horseback ride.
Right.
Yeah. Family farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Not
Yeah.
your family farm.
No, so my aunt owns a farm over in Illinois, and we have horses and ride horses. And I knew a federal prosecutor from when she was a state prosecutor. Her name's Angie Danis, and very tough, hardworking prosecutor. And I knew I had all this stuff, and none of it equaled up to being able to charge any of these people. But my wife and I and her were riding horses out at the family farm one day, and I said, hey, I got this case, and I have a mother who's a really nice lady, and I'd like to try to advance the ball a little bit, and I can't do it with the resources that we have. So she did a little research and found out that we could open a federal investigation, and then it's kind of a perfect storm. I went to the academy with a guy in St. Louis City's police academy named Chris Faber. He worked on the city police department for about 4 years and then went to the FBI. Well, he got transferred to a small place in Kentucky, and he had just gotten back to St. Louis. He had called me and said, hey, I got assigned to the violent crime unit. I'd like to help out. So him and a brand new intel analyst named Andrew Wood with the FBI came over and met with my partner and I, Donnie Thurman. And we started running with it.
And then, but the attorney told you, yeah, I'd like to take that case.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question was we knew the insurance policy, we knew the travels of these phones. I knew there was a financial side, and I think the research was really, hey, is it a murder for hire if somebody gets murdered and then they try to claim life insurance policy profit?
Right. And you find a lot of this stuff out because after you get the feds involved, I just call feds, but you get more information from these phones, and you start listening to some jailhouse calls that lead you in different directions and tell you more information about that murder and who might have done it.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about those.
Yeah, so remember how I said that Tarek Ellis was really only in communication with the victim, a burner phone that we attributed to Tim Norman, and then this, I'll never forget the last 4 digits, it's 5999 number. We'll just call it the shooter's number. So the records by that time had been purged by the cell phone company, so we weren't able to serve process on that phone.
On the 599 number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you do then? You get creative. We run it through the jail call system, and there was a call placed to that phone number from a holding tank in St. Louis City, which is a whole nother story. We don't register our inmates with a number right away, so it's really hard if they're only in the Justice Center for a minute to figure out who's holding that phone. Mm-hmm. But there was a phone call to a female, and she was holding the shooter's phone. And this was prior to the murder, but she said, hey, call your other phone, call your other phone. So it was abundantly clear that a guy got arrested. He was in a holding tank at St. Louis City, and who I thought was his mother was obviously got his phone before he was carted off to jail.
Right.
So we ran the other numbers that were made out of that tank, and were able, along with the people that were in that tank, and we're able to determine that Travell Hill was in that holding tank, and we immediately recognized him as one of the names that were flown out to
into
LA
the rap party
for the rap video.
Yep.
Rap video.
This is like I said, this thing's wild, man.
Yeah.
And then when you get that information, the COVID hits, right? So COVID hits
does.
right in the middle of this thing, and you guys are getting the ball rolling. And what happens then?
Yeah, I'd like to point out that you actually probably gave me COVID. You were like patient zero.
Oh yeah, I was patient.
I know.
Yeah.
I know when it happened. You were in Central Patrol.
Yep.
You walked by me, kind of spit all
Did you
over
get
me
it right?
while you were yelling.
Did you get it right after me?
Got all
Yes.
up in your face.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I was the first case on the police
Yeah,
department.
well, I was the second. Thank you. No.
Sorry.
So anyway, COVID hits, and we didn't miss a beat in homicide. It was one of our busiest years we've ever had. So, but the federal government kind of shut down, or they were working from home. Anyway, the short of it is the U.S. Attorney's Office and the federal building, at the onset, they were ordered to work from home, don't have any meetings. And I hope I don't get anybody in trouble saying this. But we knew we had to meet. So we would meet at the family farm to have meetings
At the
about
college
it.
headquarters.
And you kept your social distance and talked.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Cool with that. Wore masks.
Kind of like our
Yeah.
happy hours, Tom.
Exactly. COVID wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Let's
Go
just
on.
move on from the COVID. But go
But,
ahead with the story, David. And so the ball gets rolling. You guys get enough to get a federal charge on Tera, the stripper, and Tim Norman. So tell us how that goes down from there. You guys go to arrest them, and tell us how the first one goes and then the second one.
Correct. We got criminal complaints. So they weren't grand jury indictments. They were, criminal complaints in the feds.
And what were the charges?
Conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and I think Tim had a wire fraud on there. Ultimately, I don't remember the exact charging. They were related to the murder.
Right.
What ultimately got indicted and tried was the murder for hire, conspiracy to commit murder for hire, and then the wire fraud. But in any event, we went down we determined that Tera was living in, I want to say it's called South Haven, Mississippi.
Huh? Yep.
It's just south of the Tennessee border.
Yep.
So we went down and picked her up out of her house one day, and it's kind of interesting because we got a public defender appointed to her before we went and arrested her, and had that public defender waiting at the police station when we brought her back to question her.
Oh.
Now, why would you do that?
We knew she was going to need a lawyer. And
May as well just
Right,
cut to the chase.
just makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That's a good move.
We
ain't got time. We're going to come
Yeah.
down here and see
No.
what's up.
No,
Well,
I just thought they would wait till after they read her rights, they'd wait to see if she wanted an attorney.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all thought at that point it would be too late trying to find an attorney and get them up to speed.
Gotcha.
I don't think that the attorney knew who the players were involved, but they knew the facts of the case when they
Right.
went down there. But in any event, we arrested her and brought her back and interviewed her. And to say so what I always say is the goal of any police interview is to know all the answers to your questions before you ask them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you can't do that, the second is pick some questions you know the answer to and ask those. So it's pretty minor stuff, but she had lied about. We looked at her banking records before we came there, and we could see that she had deposited just under $10,000 in cash a day or two after the murder in two separate deposits into her bank account. So that made us suspicious. So, that's a clue.
JJ.
The smart part is the 10,000 because they don't think less 10,000 doesn't raise a flag.
They don't have to
Yeah.
write it. Yeah, don't
Hey,
have to
Dave,
send it.
were they all in ones?
She's
Well,
working.
I-
She's
I-
working.
I don't think they probably were because Tim Norman paid her. But so another kind of interesting thing about her is she went out to California the week after the murder, and we were able to put. She went out there with her mother and her child, and we were able to put her with Tim Norman a week after
Through their
the murder.
phones.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everywhere you go with that phones, them two phones meet up. You got a clue.
So she met with Tim Norman out in California too after the murder.
Week after the murder.
So you're interviewing her,
Yep.
and during the interview, and Dave and I talked before the show, but Dave immediately thinks she's lying. And why did you think she was lying?
Well, we asked her how much she got paid. Well, first off, her story didn't make sense. Like, she said, look, I had finished a weekend at Bottoms Up. I think it was a Monday morning. I just got this random text from Tim saying, hey, are you in town? Can you meet up at the Chase Park Plaza? I went over there. We had sex. We're having pillow talk afterwards. He says, hey, my nephew did some evil stuff to my mother, stole a bunch of money. Do you know him? She said, well, let me look at his picture. Oh, yeah, I just met him last week. Well, that doesn't make any
Right.
sense. So didn't believe her. She kind of goes through the story about she reached out to Andre that day while they were laying in bed so that she could prove that she knew him and could get a hold of him. And at that point, they went to the Walgreens, bought a couple burner phones, activated them. He said, get me his location. She actually found Andre out at his hotel and texted Tim, said, hey, I found his location. Tim said, my boys aren't ready. Keep tabs on him. So she goes out to the Galleria. I mean, this shows this how sadistic some of these people are. She goes out to the Galleria and she's sitting there shopping and she's thinking, well, how the hell am I going to get him out of a house? So she buys him a pair of jeans to like lure him out of the house, knowing that she's going to meet him. So she goes to the murder scene, gets him out of the house, and she's also in contact with the shooter too, because he had given her, while she didn't know the shooter, he had given her the shooter's number. She gets a text message, says move, right when Andre gets out of the car. She takes off, hears gunshots, calls Tim, says, I think she said, what the fuck? And he says, hey, take yourself back to Memphis and don't ever come back here. And
Wow.
she had gotten paid already, so she took off and gone. But I did not believe that, and we were pretty hard on her. It was a tough interview. I didn't believe that she had just met Andre and
The week before.
and
Happenstance.
you know.
But it
So-
turns out, I mean, not to get ahead, it turns out that she was telling the truth.
Yeah, and it leads me into Tim's arrest
Right. So the next day, you guys go get Tim.
in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep. And tell us about that.
So we round up and head down to Jackson, stay a night there, meet with the FBI agents down there. And it was a little bit crazy because we had surveillance on him and he, we're planning on going to we're planning on going a certain time. He gets up, he leaves, but
The old throw in the wrench.
correct.
Yep.
But he finally beds down back at home. So we send a bunch of people over there and knock on his door. He comes to the door, take him into custody at the doorway. Don't even do like a protective sweep. Lock the door, close it. He's got his cell phone in his pocket. We take the cell phone, take him to jail. He lawyers up, lock him down. But we had his cell phone,
Right.
which
Now a couple more things start coming out, and just, I mean, obviously he lawyers up right away, doesn't talk to you. But what do you and the team get out of that cell phone?
he's such a dummy. So when we got a warrant on the cell phone and we got into it, he had messages dating back years, and I mean years, all the way to, let's see, he had messages with Tera, essentially setting up that meeting that I didn't think really started the day of the murder.
Right.
Well, there were messages in there. Hey, are you in town? Come on over to the Chase Park Plaza. This is my room number, so on and so forth. So that verified Tera's story, right?
Right.
So the other part is we had messages dating back to when he got the insurance policy with Wally. They call him Wally Millions. He is a Grammy-nominated music producer that produced one of Nelly's albums and also had a track on Training Day, the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Come on now.
So, I mean, it started off like, hey, Wally, I need insurance for my nephew. And, they're discussing insurance and then quickly turns into Tim, oh, he doesn't have to know, does he? And
This is all on text, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. And Wally saying, oh, no, he doesn't have to know. We'll get him to sign the paperwork. Watch how I do it. And then there's other messages about Wally trying to sell him more insurance on the nephew. And Tim's like, one of them discussed, oh, is it still double for accidental death? And I mean, it was just
Text after text.
yeah, it was crazy. But the one that was really, really bad is Wally's talking about changing the insurance policy for, better benefits and
So
and all
much trouble
this.
is Wally in.
Did Wally go to jail
Yeah, Wally went to jail for 3 or 4 years on wire fraud.
for this?
Oh yeah.
He got off easy.
Wally, there's some question on whether Andre signed one of the policies, but there's no question that he signed any of these. And I honestly think to this day, if Andre signed something, he did not know what he was signing,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
But the policies were just riddled with misstatements. You know, an insurance agent's supposed to check the ID. You know, none of this stuff happened. But the really damning text message for Tim was they were discussing a replacement policy, and Tim said to him, don't do anything. He's not going to make it 6 months, bro.
So this is all on text messages?
Yes.
That's smart.
That's smart.
So what I do want to go back just a little bit, Dave, because I found this interesting when I was talking to you. When you arrest Tim, you make 2 phone calls. Who are those 2 phone calls to?
Our first phone call was to Andre's mother, Miss Griggs. And so her and I, and to some degree, Andre's brother, Darren, developed a really good relationship right off the start. You know, there's just some people that are just a pleasure to deal with, and that family is just the best I've ever dealt with.
Really?
As far as homicide victims' families. They're amazing. But Miss Griggs and I came up with a deal at the beginning. If she doesn't call 911 anymore, or, you know, call my bosses or cause it, you know, I just wanted to put her at ease that something was being done. But I gave her no updates on the case. None.
You really can't.
We didn't talk to we didn't tell the family. We didn't tell other police officers where we were. We didn't tell we didn't tell anybody.
Loose lips sink
nobody.
ships, brother.
We didn't even interview a witness before we charged these people.
Surprised you didn't call me. I'm not the kind of guy they were trying to keep it from. But so you with Miss Griggs, is that so you call her, and what's her reaction?
It was a very emotional phone call. You know, I don't think there were the team of investigators, Donnie Thurman, Andrew Wood, Chris Faber, Angie Danis. We were all huddled around the phone, and it was Miss Griggs works at a jail down in Texas, so she at the time she didn't always have her phone, so I think I had to like call the jail and say, hey, you need to get a hold of her, because we knew this was going to hit the news at some point.
Right.
We wanted to be in touch with her, and it was an emotional call to say the least. I don't think there was a dry eye in the group. Miss Griggs was very thankful, and she's just a great person.
That's awesome.
And then the next call you make is who's that to?
Robbie Montgomery.
And how did that go? And again, Robbie is the grandmother of the victim,
Owner of Sweetie Pies.
right? And she was also what some of you talked to throughout the investigation. Just give updates here and there, and she always wanted this case solved, but it probably wasn't solved exactly the way she wanted it solved. But go ahead.
Yeah. I called her. I recorded the phone call because I really believed that in her heart of hearts she knew that.
Who did it?
Yeah. And she was broken up, to say the least. But, you know, during the investigation, we had determined that obviously Tim was in St. Louis at the time of the murder. It's really kind of tragic. The police show up at her door and say, hey, there's a body at the morgue and we think it's Andre. Well,
Wow.
she's calling Tim, right?
Oh.
Now, Tim's in St. Louis waiting for his flight to take off because it's delayed.
Oh.
And Tim doesn't say, hey, I'm in St. Louis, I'll come get you. He doesn't do that.
Another
But
clue.
he calls you know, his security guard and says, hey, Mama's got to go down to the morgue. Why don't you go with her? You know?
Yeah.
And then flies out to L.A. But she didn't know about the insurance policy. She didn't know he was in L.A. She was devastated. And my heart goes out to her, too.
Now she's still.
yeah.
She was rather old at the time. Is she still? Do you know if she's still alive? And was this the demise of the restaurant then? Was it closed before that?
I think they had one more. Well, Tim, I think, had a Sweetie Pies down in Jackson. And then Miss Robbie still had one over on Olive.
I ate there. You guys ever eat there?
No.
It's right on Manchester. We went in. It was good. Not that it has anything to do with anything,
But there was I'll go back to that rap video that we mentioned earlier, and Dave found out about that rap video. But in that rap video ends up being the shooter and the victim. were both in that rap video.
No, the victim was not.
Oh, he was not?
No,
Okay.
the shooter and his brothers.
The shooters and his brothers. And one of the things is when you go to a federal trial, there's always somebody that sits first seat. And Dave was chosen for that guy. It's usually the person that's most involved and most knowledgeable of the case. And about 90% of the time, and Dave and I talked about this, about 95% of the time that person gets called to the witness stand to come up and kind of wrap the case up with all the facts. And for one reason, and we've talked about this on other shows, but that Dave did not testify and go through that.
Yeah, so remember when I talked about his cell phone? Well, I mean, anybody, if you Google my name, I was sued once. It was thrown out, but there was an allegation that I destroyed a cell phone or some stuff on the cell phone.
We've talked. That's what I'm saying. We've talked about those silly lawsuits.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, and it was thrown out. And it was complete and total ridiculousness. But Tim, it was obvious that Tim had seen that, and they actually tried to. There was a motion to suppress the evidence on that cell phone, and the prosecutors put up the Special Agent Faber as their witness, and then Tim Norman called me as a defense witness to try to get into that lawsuit. And the judge shut it down right away because it was completely improper. But it was abundantly clear that they were going to try to make me the bad guy in the entire deal.
And they said that, and then in their lawsuit, or his claim was that Dave went in the house to get the cell phone. It wasn't on him with all those people. So they were going to escape him out. And then how did you prove that did not happen?
Well, I mean, I never even touched the phone outside of an evidence bag. It, Faber had it, and we turned it into our people, and it got examined. But, there was nothing funny about it, but at some point during trial prep, we were all sitting in a meeting because, in federal trials, we've all been through them, and they bring their A game, right?
Right.
I mean,
Everybody does.
So it was a month straight of trial prep, 8 hours a day, and they said, "Hey, we're not gonna we're gonna break this to you. We're not gonna call you as a witness." And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit upset, and I had a conversation with them, and. At the end of the day, you put your ego away and you do what's best for the case. And I think in the end, it threw them off their game, not because I'm anything special.
Right.
They got a change up.
They
change up on the outside corner.
Correct. And it was perfect trial strategy.
But what I wanted you to get to, though, is you guys reviewed some jailhouse tapes that made it clear that that's exactly how that arrest went down, is how you described it before.
Oh, yeah. So Tim gets in, books it. I don't remember the facility, somewhere around Jackson, Mississippi. And he gets into jail and he picks up the phone and he's like, "A SWAT team came to my door with machine guns and helmets. All I had was my phone and my basketball shorts." And
so that was on the tape. So
there it is.
So he proved right there that he lied to get the lawsuit, which we've talked about several times before.
Yeah.
But this is what a great story. And again, the trial went on, and this thing divided the family because of that burglary. They put different things out on the street. And with this reality show, it was extremely popular. And it even divided their fans. And I don't think they liked Tim very much, and they liked Andre a lot. And when this thing broke down, it was all over the place. And it was. But hearing it from your point of view is pretty cool stuff. And we appreciate you coming by.
What did Tim Norman get sentenced? What was his sentence?
Life. The shooter.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Life?
Yeah, Tim Norman got life without parole. The shooter got about 33 years, and Tera got 3, and Wally got 3 or 4 years.
Is Wally still doing insurance?
Leave that for Ed Messplay. Awesome. Well, that's all.
And then one of the things I wanted to mention too is that Dave comes from his wife's family. Yeah. So his wife's family. Tell us a little bit about the wife's family and their background.
Well, I come from a police family. My father's a retired police officer. My my sister was a 911 dispatcher. My brother-in-law was a retired police officer, and my mother managed to stay married to my father for all these years and deal with all
Was
of
he
us.
St. Louis City?
Cops. No, he's a Webster Groves police officer, and brother-in-law was in Jefferson County. But I married into a family of defense attorneys. So my late father-in-law worked for Charlie Shaw.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
my wife's twin sister, Stephanie, she works for Travis Noble. And their older sister, Cynthia, does a private practice defense work.
Were they disappointed when you came around?
No, I do. Kind of funny story. My wife's twin sister married a professional musician that plays for Guns N' Roses, and I always tell my wife, I said, "Boy, you missed the boat, man! Like, you married a cop."
Your sister's rolling around all over the tour.
That's crazy.
Correct.
Tour of the United States.
Correct. Yeah.
But no, that's a great story.
Well said.
I don't know how you wrap that up any better, but Dave, we appreciate you coming by, and I'm sure that. And Dave does have another story.
That's what I was going to say.
Going to trial now.
It's my favorite story.
It's a good one. It's a doozy. The next one is a doozy also. That it's a funny story. It's got a lot of twists and turns, and it's a little political, but not a whole lot political. But again, Dave, appreciate it, and always close with this. What I close with, Danny. Communities that
see, look
support
at
the
it.
police are safer places to live. Communities that support the police, safer places to live. Thanks.
Peace.
Good job, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back. That was a great set. I thought that was a great interview. Dave was great. But afterwards, Dave had mentioned that he forgot to mention a couple things that he would like to mention. And one of them was the work of his partner, Donnie Thurman. He mentions him a couple times during the show. But what he really forgot to mention that he really wanted to mention was Donnie was extremely instrumental and basically did the job of getting a confession out of the shooter, which obviously was a big part of the case. But obviously that's out there. I know we didn't delve too much into the shooter, but that was one of the things that he forgot. And the other one was that Miss Griggs and her family sent all the investigator these 2 badges that you're going to see right here that are up on the screen, and they're very cool. If you look at them, the A-team
Custom made badges.
custom made, and they had them sent to him, and that really meant a lot to Dave and all the investigators when Miss Griggs sent them that, and her family, just for the appreciation of the work they did. So that was very cool. That then again, the brighter side of blue, Dave and those guys, as he mentioned, were very close to the family, and they really wanted to solve that case, and they did a bang-up job.
The sad thing of the whole story is that this is not how they want it to end. When it's your family members doing this to each other, I know it just crushed the family. Then they solved it, and it was how they wanted it to be solved.
Right. And one of the things too that I'd like to, when I was talking to Dave before, and I asked him, I said, that burglary, let's go back to that burglary. And I go, did Tim do it? And he goes, well, I can't say that, but I certainly think that.
Well, I think everybody that watched it thinks the same thing.
I think so.
You have to come to that conclusion. What a narcissistic.
Oh, this guy's not liked, man.
Oh, well,
so when I was doing the research on it, I was going on YouTube and getting a lot of the other reports on it. They do not like Tim.
Well, he's just evil. To be able to do what he did,
that.
what he did is just unreal.
Absolutely. I mean, he doesn't have a likable trait.
No,
like
he's
sometimes, even no matter how evil people are, they have a likable trait. I don't think he had any.
No, he just wanted to be a star. He wanted to be.
I felt bad for Miss Robbie too. That's a tough situation because she really wanted that thing solved too. But I think Dave even said that he did. Deep in her heart, she knew that phone call might be coming one day.
Tim even had a terrible rap video.
That was a bad video. He showed a little clip of it, but it's Migos, I think, is the name of the rapper, and the rap's called "Loud" by Migos. So yeah, it was horrible.
What was sad? He wanted to be
absolutely
famous.
Horrible.
He wanted to be famous at the cost of his nephew's life.
Yep,
it's crazy.
He was already famous. He just needed money. He spent all that money that he made.
He wasn't famous enough though.
Apparently.
That's
sad story. But that was great job. And then, like we said at the end of the show, Dave's got a couple other homicide stories that are pending that are going to be pretty entertaining. Wouldn't you say, JJ?
Oh, the next one he can tell, if he tells it, is unreal.
Well, I love it. All right. Well, that'll wrap up this show. And again, you can find these last 2 interviews if you want to send these to some friends of yours, trying to get them interested in our podcast. We understand that sometimes everybody doesn't like our babbling. However, we are going to start putting these things out in a similar fashion as we go forward, and we would like your opinions on what we're doing. So get a hold of us on our email at the brighter side of blue
@gmail.com.
You got it. Fucked that up the last time. All right, we're out of here, and hope to see you guys next week, or listen to you next week, or you'll hear us next week.
Sure.